Again, thank you all for coming. It means so much. And I'm very excited. Okay, awesome. Okay, first. So if anyone knows me, they know that I love games. Let me just, make sure it's recording. Okay. They know I love games. And so we're going to play a little game to start off the night. First game. Let's say you went to Uri's, which is a salad place for those who don't know. That's very popular in my community. Okay. And with your friend, and you are both eating salad. I like kale tempeh, but whatever you like. And you're eating, enjoying, when you notice that your friend has something in their teeth. What do? So for those who just came, Sarah and Deborah, thanks for coming. I just asked a question. Let's say you are eating with your friend and you notice your friend has something in their teeth. What would you do?
You tell them.
Yeah, exactly, Nancy. You tell them. It's not hard. Yeah, everyone feel free to always use the chat. Okay, thank you, Adina. Yeah, you tell them. Excellent. Okay, next question. Now, let's say, instead of kale in their teeth, or broccoli in their teeth, you notice your friend has been cursing a lot lately. What do? Go, Dina.
I'll tell them.
Okay, you tell them.
I guess it depends how close I am with that person. Like, if I'm really close with that person, like, I'll for sure, like, tell them right away, like, stop cursing, what are you doing? But if I'm not super close with that person, I don't know if I would necessarily say anything.
Right, 100%. Okay, so the title of the class is Rebuke's Place in Judaism, and let's see. So first I want to ask you, was it a little harder to say yes, that, like, I'm going to go tell them and, like, help them the second time? Like when we were talking about their personality and how they started cursing more. Okay, I would assume so. For me, it was like, oh, if there's broccoli if there's kale in their teeth, I'm gonna for sure tell them. But, like, if they're cursing more, I don't know if I'm gonna tell them. So I want to ask you, what's the difference between the two scenarios? Between the kale and go, Dina.
One is like physical, like you have something in your teeth, like, versus cursing is like not so physical, it's more speech. So I guess because we're all trying to like think before we speak, it's hard to like tell someone to like think before they speak when we all could be struggling with that same thing.
Love that point. Yeah, Marcel Cohen said definitely much harder. So yeah, I think this is like, for me, what I was trying to think about is that, one, it's like something foolish, like they're like, it happens to everyone. They didn't like will it so much. And the other one's like your personality. It's a little harder. But we all know that which one's really the most important? The personality. Even though people would argue, no, if I have kale in my teeth, I'm gonna die. Like, what is this? Horrible. Okay, anyway. So now we're gonna look at rebuke in Judaism and the importance of it, and also how to do it. Like, basically how to do it. Okay, so first let's see the source in the Torah. Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha hochech tochiach et amitecha velo tisa alav chet. Okay. Anyone want to explain what it means? Okay, I can explain, but I also put pictures. Hate in my heart. Rebuke. Get away from sin. Okay. Anyway, so you shall not hate your brother in your heart. You should rebuke people, your kinsmen, and you shouldn't incur guilt upon yourself, or like a sin. Okay, so does anyone have a question on this pasuk? Let me think how I could make you try to guess my question. Okay, let's see. We'll bring it back to the cursing example. It says, don't hate your friend who curses in your heart. Like, don't hate this friend because she or he curses. Rebuke them so that you won't sin, or that he won't sin. It's unclear, but we're gonna analyze that. But the question is, why are these three things grouped together? Why is it don't hate your brother in your heart, rebuke him, and then don't get sin. Yeah, go, Adina.
Question is more like, if anything, they should be grouped together, meaning because they seem very similar. So like they should be grouped kind of together as opposed to three separate things.
Okay, can you see, like, can you try to explain the flow to us? Like, of why these should be together. Don't hate your brother in your heart, rebuke him, and don't get sin upon yourself or upon the other person. Specifically, why are the first two connected? Yeah, go, Sarah. Always just call out.
Oh, okay. Because it's like a prerequisite to then rebuking. Like, you have to make sure you don't hate your fellow and that, like, you're loving them before you then could go on to rebuking them.
Wow, I love that. I didn't even think about it like that. And then Nancy says, rebuke is coming from a place of care, not coming out of hatred, at least in this case. Okay, excellent. I was even thinking, I love that point, because I think that's so true, and we're going to get to that later. But I was thinking, I am not going to hate my friend if I tell them to stop. And we're going to see that this is what Rambam says also. Would anyone like to read, or I could read? The Mishneh Torah.
You could read.
I can read. Thank you. Okay. לא יסתמנו וישתוק כמו שנאמר ברשעים, ולא דיבר אבשלום את אמנון מהומה למרע ועד טוב, כי שנא אבשלום את אמנון, אלא מצווה עליו להודיע ולומר לו, למה עשית לי כך וכך, ולמה חטאתי לי בדבר פלוני, שנאמר הוכח תוכיח את עמיתך. So basically what Rambam is saying in the Hilchot, if one man commit a sin against another, the one sinned against shall not remain in silent hate against the sinner. If someone's doing something that's bothering you, you shouldn't just hate them in your heart. You should tell them. And this happened with Avshalom and Amnon. He didn't say anything, he just hated him. And the Rambam is saying, no, this is not what you should be doing. But on the contrary, it is obligatory upon him to make known to him and say unto him, why have you done to me thus? And such, and wherefore have you sinned against me in that particular matter? For it is said, and thou shalt indeed rebuke thy neighbor. Then it brings our pasuk, okay. So I think one thing we learn is always communication. But now we're going to refine this statement, because we're going to continue reading in the Mishneh Torah, Ve'im chazar ubikesh mimenu limchol lo, צריך למחול, ולא יהא המוחל אכזרי, שנאמר ויתפלל אברהם אל האלוהים. And if the sinner did repent and beg to be forgiven by him, he must forgive him. So let's say my friend who's cursing a lot, or cursed me even, she wants forgiveness. I need to forgive her. And I shouldn't be cruel. And so it says from this pasuk, ויתפלל אברהם אל האלוהים. And this is actually referring to after Avimelech took Sarah as whatever to sleep with her, and then God gave him a plague or whatever, and he returned her back. Abraham prayed for him and forgave him, so that he wouldn't have this horrible thing, his punishment, whatever. So we see that he's forgiving there. But my question is, not my question. I think what's so key about this is that, yes, we should rebuke, but we should also be understanding. Abraham did it on a big scale. He just took his wife and he prayed for him. So imagine on a small scale that we should forgive for small things. I really don't like, for me, when people make such a big deal out of every single wrong thing that I do. It's so annoying. So we should understand each other, that we're humans and we make mistakes, and be easy to forgive. But when it's important, I would say, or of course, I think if it's ben adam le'makom and ben adam le'chavero, we should rebuke them eventually. But not, imagine I would never be, maybe I would be a friend with them, but imagine someone who rebuked everything you did. I don't think this person would have any friends. So yes, it's very important to rebuke, but you have to, of course, moderation, like everything in life. Okay, now I'm going to ask you, how can you sin by rebuking? Also, if someone doesn't know the word rebuke, which I think you do, is it's like whatever, telling someone that something's wrong. It's like criticism, I would say. Yeah, Dina.
What I was thinking, do it wrong if they're doing it in like a mocking tone or like sarcasm, like that's wrong.
100%. And Marcel Cohen said not doing it with the right intentions. Okay, so 1,000%. So let's see. We're gonna continue. המוכיח את חברו תחילה לא ידבר לו קשות עד שיחלימנו שנאמר ולא תישא עליו חטא. So what is it saying? He who rebukes a friend at the beginning, no hard words should be used against him to shame him. For it is said, and thou shalt bear no sin upon him. So in this case, we're saying, if you rebuke in like an evil way, with hard words and like sarcasm and bad intention, then you're getting the sin. So you're not only getting the commandment of like rebuking another person, but you're getting a sin. And thus, כך אמרו חכמים, יכול אתה מוכיחו ופניו משתנות, תלמוד למד ולא תישא עליו חטא. Okay, thus did the wise men say, understand, and not by rebuking him thou mayest cause his countenance to change expression. Don't make him embarrassed. For it is said, and thou shalt bear no sin upon him. And I think, okay, actually I want to continue, but all of what you guys said. But let's see more what we're going to learn about more how we're supposed to rebuke someone then. Because criticism is just so hard to take. So how do you even do it? מכאן שאסור לאדם להחלים את ישראל וכל שכן ברבים. What is that saying? That you shouldn't shame someone in public. כך אמרו חכמים, המלבין פני חברו ברבים, אין לו חלק לעולם הבא. I guess because this is leading towards more embarrassing. You're not trying to help the other person, but it's with a bad intention. Or not even a bad intention, but a bad means through which you're doing it. You're making his face pale. In public, you don't have a place in Olam Haba. לפיכך צריך אדם להיזהר שלא יבייש חברו ברבים, בין קטן בין גדול, if he's old or young. ולא יקרא לו בשם שהוא בוש ממנו. Okay, don't call him by a nickname. I remember someone saying this. Like, we call people by nicknames, and it's really not right sometimes. Like, even if they're used to it, I don't know if they like it. We gotta think about that. Anyway, ולא יספר לפניו דבר שהוא בוש ממנו. I read that already? No, I didn't. Okay, במה דברים אמורים? בדברים שבין אדם לחברו. אבל, so this is talking about בין אדם לחברו. אבל בדברי שמיים, אם לא חזר בו בסתר, מחלימין אותו ברבים, ומפרסים חטאו ומחרפים אותו בפניו, ומבזים ומקללים אותו, עד שיחזור למוטב, כמו שעשו כל הנביאים בישראל. So it's saying, if it's ben adam le makom, something like that, then if you try to make him realize his sin by like privately and he didn't do it, then you have to publicize it and like say this is horrible what he's doing, and then it says like you're gonna curse him and in front of everyone, because why? It's kiddush Hashem for that, and it's a chilul Hashem if he's doing something wrong in public. So you should definitely say that this is bad. Okay, now here are my pictures. Okay, so we learned a few things from this on our journey of discovering how to rebuke and rebuke in Judaism and everything like that, and understanding this pasuk. One is that we shouldn't speak with rough words or in a way that we will embarrass the other person, hence this picture. Second, going back to our example, wow, you are a horrible person, you keep cursing, you are trash. Like, that would not be a good way to do it. But also we learned that public is a no-no. Imagine you're on the beach and you tell this person in front of a lot of other people, like, wow, you've been cursing a lot. Like, what's up with you? That is very embarrassing. We don't do that either. We go to the private route. But we also learn that with regards to a matter between them and God, after you tell them privately, and they don't listen, you gotta bring it to the public realm. And this is this picture. But now I want to ask you a question. Feel free to write in the chat or unmute yourself. When do why do you think people raise their voices and get loud or harsh with someone? Or like use like, why would someone use a bad tone to rebuke someone? Any ideas? Or you could also ask yourself, when would someone use a gentle voice? Okay, I'll tell you. Oh, so you anger. Okay, great. Yeah, anger. Anyone else? Thoughts in the chat? Okay. So I think people raise their voices and get loud or harsh with someone when they think that they can change them. And like, I guess this is one of my hardest struggles. I think like you're just pushing and pushing and pushing, and you just want them to change, and like it's sort of like, I guess, doing it from your motive. But when you speak in a gentle voice, it's when you recognize that they need to come to the change on their own, and that they will get to this point by themselves. So you don't need to yell and be like a circus clown to make them change or rebuke them in this way, because they're coming to it on their own and you're doing it out of good intention. So let's see an example of this in the Torah. Anyone want to read the English? Go,
I
Sophie.
can try to read.
Oh, Adina, you're after. Sophia first.
Okay, 1 second. Remember the story of Joseph and his brothers? After being sold into slavery and then rising to the position of prime minister, Joseph again meets up with his brothers when they come to Egypt searching for food. The brothers don't recognize Joseph because he's aged and grown a beard. Joseph gives them a hard time and threatens to take Binyamin's hostage. Yehuda protests vehemently,
Yeah.
saying that their father Yaakov will be unable to survive the loss of a son.
Excellent. So this is just setting us up for the next part. But okay, I'll just review because sometimes we don't listen when people read. But basically, it's saying that Yehuda, when he was protesting that Binyamin was being saved, he said that Yaakov's going to die if we don't bring another son back. Okay, now we're going to chapter 5. I will read it. But Adina, you're going to read soon. Unless you want to read this, but whatever. ולא יכול יוסף להתהפך לכל הניצבים עליו, ויקרא הוציאו כל איש מעלי, ולא עמד איש איתו בהתוודה יוסף אל אחיו. ויתן את קולו בבכי, וישמעו מצרים וישמע בית פרעה. ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, אני יוסף העוד אביחי. ולא יכלו אחיו לענות אותו, כי נבהלו מפניו. ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, גשו נא אלי, ויגשו, ויאמר אני יוסף אחיכם, אשר מכרתם אותי מצרימה. ועתה אל תצפו האחד ביניכם, כי מכרתם אותי, הנה כי למחיה שלחני אלוהים לפניכם. Okay, so now we see here that, actually I'm going to ask you first, because I want you to discover it yourself. Why did I bring chapter 44 and then chapter 45 and highlight these specific words? Think about what Yehuda was saying, specifically the last line, that my father's going to die if he loses a son. And then it says, Vayomer Yosef el achav, ani Yosef ha'od avichai. Yeah, go Sophia. Oh, Adina and then Sophia. Adina.
Okay, sorry. I guess it's just to highlight the different tones they were using. Like Yehuda seemed very intense and he was screaming, and Yosef seems very gentle and soft over here.
Very nice. Okay, Sophia.
So it kind of sounds like there is definitely a connection, because when Yehuda says that that he was gonna die after a loss of a son, and I think at that time Shimon was in jail or something. I know someone was in jail, but so now he's asking about his father because he knows that without a son he won't be mentally, physically stable. So in a way, they're connecting.
Amazing. And Marcel Cohen, you said Jacob can't survive the loss of a son, but Yosef is saying that he lost me. Is he still alive? I don't know why I never noticed that before. That's intense. Yes, me too. You got what I was referring to. We'll read this. This is the article that helped me make this class a little. At this point, Adina, you want to read?
Sure.
Okay.
At this point, Yosef reveals to his brothers by saying, "I'm Yosef. Is my father still alive?" This was Yosef Tochacha. You say that our father won't survive the loss of a son, but did you consider that when you tore me away from our father for 22 years ago? Nobody likes to be told what to do. Therefore, it's the act of self-realization which eliminates a defense reaction. That produces effective tochla. Yosef got the brothers to realize the eternal contradiction of their own argument. Tochla is not harsh. Rather, tochla is the beauty of reality staring us squarely in the face. Self-realization. The Midrash tells the story of Eliyahu, the prophet, meeting up with the fisherman. Sorry.
No, you're good. So exactly, he's saying that tochacha comes from the word hochacha, which is proof, and this is blanket proof, like staring right at you. He was trying to do it in a subtle way and making the brothers realize exactly what they were saying, exactly what he was saying, whatever. He said it in specific words so that they could realize what they did to him. And I think that's beautiful, and I also was amazed when I saw that. Next, we're going to have another story of bringing self-realization as a way to rebuke someone. Because really, a person can only change when they decide to change themselves. And we're going to read it. Okay. I wanted us to try to do the Hebrew. I wasn't even going to bring the English. I guess we'll do the English. Or should we do the Hebrew? What do we think? Hebrew or English? You could chat it. Should we practice our Hebrew? We're going to practice our Hebrew. Lashon HaKodesh. פעם אחת הייתי מהלך ממקום למקום, מצאני אדם אחד, שלא היה בו לא מקרא ולא משנה, והיה מתלוצץ ומלעיג בדברים, ובא כנגדי ואמרתי לו. So this is a midrash, I believe, and Eliyahu Navi sees this guy and he says, do you study Torah? And Beni mata mashiv lavicha shebashmaim lo yom hadin. Oh, sorry. Whatever. He said, no, I don't study. I don't have the brains for it. And then, v'amarti lo beni mata mashiv lavicha shebashmaim lo yom hadin. What are you going to say on the day of the judgment that you don't study? And then he says, v'amad li rabbi yesh li devarim shani meshiva bina v'dat lo natnu li min hashamayim she'ekra ve'eshneh. I don't have the brain power to learn Torah. It's not for me. V'amarti lo beni ma melachtech. What's your job? Eliyahu Navi tells the fisherman. V'amar li sayidani. I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. V'amarti lo beni mi lamdech. Who taught you? V'amar lecha shetavi pashtan v'targehu mesudot v'teshlicheu leyam. V'taleh dagim nayam. He's explaining how it works, the complex factors that's involved. It says, wow, it sounds like you're able to really understand this complex thing. Okay, another thing of whatever, another thing of fishing. And he says, Eliyahu says, when you get to heaven, you plan to testify because you're just a simple man, not endowed with any talent or intelligence. But your expertise as a fisherman refutes your very own claim. And then it says, beautiful pasuk. Hayam natnu lecha bina v'dat min hashamayim v'divrei Torah shekatuv ba ki karov elecha hadavar me'od beficha u'bilvavecha lasoto. Lo natnu lecha bina v'dat min hashamayim. How could you say, based on this pasuk, lo b'shamayim the Torah? It's close to your mouth and your heart. How could you say that you don't have the knowledge to study Torah? And I like this article, an explanation I found of this was saying, did you ever hear someone say he doesn't have time to study wisdom, visit his mother, or do volunteer work? Yet, what about all the hours of TV he watched? And this is tochacha, incontrovertible, proof. That again, he's trying to make him realize on his own, wow, I actually am smart. I know how to fish and all these things, and I should be studying Torah. Okay, my next question is, first, any thoughts or comments or anything? Feel free to scream out. Okay. Okay. Okay, lastly, Adina said this in the beginning, but I want you to think back to the cursing example. What does it depend on if you would rebuke them or not? Adina, what did you say?
I don't remember.
Okay, it depends if they're my close friend, a stranger, because why? We rebuke people that we love and that we care about. If, of course, we're doing it for the good intention. If you really love someone, you can't stand to see them living a misguided life. Who gives you the most criticism? Those who love you the most. Your parents. It's because they love you that they can't simply ignore you by saying, he's wasting time, but I don't care. This reminds me of the seminar skit where, whatever. But I think this is perfect. Like, you should realize, I mean, something that I took from this is that you should realize that when someone's rebuking you, and it's for the right intention, you should grab for it, and you should realize that they're doing it because they love you. And it's always what we try to explain to, like, little kids, that parents say no because they love you and they care about you. And that's where rebuke should come from. A friend may say hard things, but his motivation is love. Okay, next, I want us to think, okay. And also, we know that this is true because right before the other pasuk that we were talking about the whole time, it says, that it's our obligation to not stand aside when someone's doing something wrong. We have to rebuke them. And next, and I think, yeah, it's just, I really, sometimes you think, like, how much should I intervene? How much should I not? How much should I, like, try to put my opinion or try to change this person? You can't change people. Because on one hand, like, I'm getting myself crazy, but on the other hand, I really care. And a Jew is supposed to care for one another. If someone's in pain or doing the wrong thing, you gotta say something, as hard as it could be, if you really care about the person. And next, we're gonna read this Pirkei Avot, which ties in the third piece of Lo Tisa Alav Chet. Kol ha-mezakeh et harabim, en chet ba al yado. וכל המרתיע את הרבים אין מספיקים בידו לעשות תשובה. משה זכה וזיכה את הרבים, זכות הרבים תלוי בו שנאמר צדקת השם עשה, ומשפטיו עם ישראל. ירבעם חטא והחטיא את הרבים, חטא הרבים תלוי בו, שנאמר על חטאות ירבעם אשר חטא ואשר החטיא את ישראל. So this Pirkei Avot is basically saying that if you cause someone to sin, if you cause the multitudes to be righteous, if you are like Moshe and you cause so many people to be good, then sin will not come upon you. But if you cause a lot of people to sin, then you won't be able to repent. And that Moshe was righteous and he caused multitudes of people to be good, and he even told people when they were bad. But Yerovam sinned and caused so many people to sin, and I think this would also be a kind of person who didn't care if someone was doing the wrong thing and didn't say anything. Okay.
I have something to say about, like, caring for people and, like,
Yeah, go,
as
Sophia.
a Jew, it's our moral to care.
Okay.
So, in a way, I kind of disagree with the fact that it's a Jew's moral, because it can be any religion's moral, whether you're Hindu or Christian or Muslim or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's every human being's moral, no matter if you're a Jew or a Christian or a Hindu or whatever. Like, there's a difference between having it not be your place and you just not caring. If it's not your place, then it's okay to just walk past and mind your business. But if it is your place and you think that you have to say something, say something. Don't just walk away. It's not just a Jew's moral to care.
Agreed. That's why I wrote, it's our obligation as a moral human being and as a Jew. But, like, a Jew is a moral human being. But yes, I definitely agree, and I also agree that it's not always your place. But sometimes it is, and we don't step up. Okay. Sarah Sasson said, there are so many limits in making sure we rebuke correctly. Being that we should care for our fellow Jews, if we accustom ourselves to praising others for the good things they do and their strengths, that could help ensure that when there is the need to rebuke, it's built on a place of love and care and not hate. Love that. It's like a relationship ink. You can't just go after and like just say, and just say, oh, like you're horrible and like just rebuke out of nowhere. It needs to be based on the foundation of a loving relationship, and when you do compliment their strengths as well. So thank you for adding that. Love that too. Thanks Marcel Cohen for that comment too. Okay. Next, I want to ask you this question. First, I thought of it also like Corona. Like, we all care about each other and we don't want anyone to get it because then they will pass it on. So too, our spiritual health and those of others is very important. Lastly, I want you to think of, now next part. I want you to think of athletes in the Olympics or authors who want editors to read their book. And what's significant about them with regards to criticism? Athletes and authors. If you were an author and you could get the best editor to read your book, would you want them to?
Yeah, so then you know how to make your book better. Like if it needs to be better, then you know how to do it. If someone's there to help criticize it. Maybe not criticize it, but like give constructive criticism.
Right. So I think something about them, unless anyone also always chat, whatever, is that they look for criticism. Athletes in the Olympics, they want you to be so nitpicky. Editors, they want every single word. I think as an author, it would be very scary to get the best editor to read your book because they could rip it to shreds, but you also want them to because then you're going to be the best person. And I think this should teach us that we really should want criticism. When, of course, it comes from a good place, but because if we care about who we are and that we want to be the best person we are, then we should love criticism and want it. And we're going to see a story that shows that. My cousin tells a story about his great-great-grandfather. We have growth mindset, 100%. Carol Dweck, watch her TED Talk. My cousin tells a story about his great-great-grandfather, the revered Rabbi Yitzhak Meir, known as the Chidushei Harim, 19th century Poland. When the rabbi's grandson, known as the Sfas Emet, was about 12 years old, he stayed awake all night learning Torah with a friend. When dawn broke, they prayed the morning service at the earliest time and went to bed. A few hours later, the boys awoke and returned to the yeshiva, where they encountered Rabbi Yitzhak Meir. He did not know that his grandson had stayed awake all night studying and proceeded to rebuke him for not attending the regular morning services. What happened? Okay. For not attending the regular morning services. Okay. The rebuke lasted a few minutes, throughout which the Sfat Emet stood and listened attentively, not uttering a word. When the grandfather had left, the boy's friend expressed disbelief. Why didn't you defend yourself against this unwarranted rebuke? You were studying all night. That's why you didn't go to morning learning. Because, replied the Sfat Emet, it's not every day that I get such personalized feedback from my revered grandfather, and I wasn't about to miss such an opportunity. No doubt this is what King Solomon meant when he said, give tochacha to a wise person and he'll love you. So too, this guy didn't even deserve the Sfat Emet didn't even deserve rebuke, but he just wanted it so badly, and it brings the pasuk from Mishleh, do not rebuke a scoffer, for he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. If we're wise, and we know that if someone's giving us rebuke, yes, it's hard to receive, but we want to be our best selves. So we want this. We want to be perfect like the Olympian or like the author. So we should really search for it in a sense. Okay. Any comments before we wrap up? No. Okay. Let's review. 1. One should express negative feelings instead of keeping inside and hating the person. But also, be forgiving and not over-rebuke. Don't rebuke every little nitpicky kind of thing, and forgive people. Proper rebuke is when you are doing it for the benefit of the other, because you care for them and therefore It shouldn't be done in a way that embarrasses them, public, or in a harsh tone. It should be in a gentle voice and in a way that helps them come to the realization on their own, like Yosef and Eliyahu and the fishermen. Lastly, it is important to care about another and care about yourself, enough to want criticism, and with that, I thank you for coming.